Hello, how's it going? Welcome back. This is my first video of 2023 and it's almost the end of January. Useless, rubbish, pathetic, pointless, pants. Anyway, we're here now, and on the last video I spoke about how I was trying to figure out what chassis I was going to use for the Winnebago. Now, in case you didn't see that one, basically I'm making a trail truck of sorts. It's going to be a trail truck, but it's not going to be a particularly capable trail truck. This is made of steel. Weighs a lot, even though it's got the roof off now. And no axles, you probably noticed that, there's no wheels on it. Yeah, that's going to weigh a lot. It's not going to be a particularly competent one, but it will be a trail truck. I got the idea from somebody on the MS UK forum, whose online name is Walk by the Sea. He used an HPI Venture chassis as the basis for his, so I wasn't going to do the same as him. I should have just thought of this at the time, but I didn't. At the time, I was looking to sell, and I had advertised my Gmade Komodo double cab GS02. The reason being is I was so impressed with Gmade that I wanted the newer Komodo double cab GS02F, so I bought that just because they were so good at listening to customer feedback and making changes. And I thought, you know what, that's a company I want to support. I loved the GS02 double cab Komodo, it was my favourite truck, so why not get the newer one, support the company. Anyway, this was for sale, but it didn't sell, so I have this chassis spare. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take it off sale, remove the adverts, and so this is going to be the basis for my venture, my Winnebago. It's the perfect chassis for it. It's quite strong, it's quite hefty, you can add lots of weight low down. You can get something like an FTX Outback, which is a better dimensions, has better dimensions for this because it's narrower and shorter. A normal trail truck, a full-size 12.3 inch trail truck like one of these, like an Axial SX10, they are all too wide. The axles are too wide. Track width is too much. But anyway, this is a good basis. So what have I done since? Well, if you are a Komodo fan or a Gmade fan, you'll notice these are not Gmade axles. I bought the Boom Racing BRX 90 fat axles. The reason being is the track width. I thought they would be narrower than the Gmade axles, and I guess they are, but they're not narrow enough, sadly. These are big tires. These are the Gmade MT 1903s. So they are wider than I expect. I expected to use the Gmade MT 1901s, which are smaller and narrower and more realistic. I have them on my Venture here. These are exactly the sort of tire. Look at the tread. Nice tread on them. And not nearly as extreme as that. Way more better suited to something like this. But even this is still too wide. It's too wide. The reason I have these on it, placeholders, these were the only tires I had sitting around. I wanted it up on tires to try and figure things out. These were never going to be the tires for it, and they are too big. I mean, if we look at that again, look at that, way too big for the arches, way too big. The thing is, even these are 1901s, they're too small, too big, too big. Anyway, back on topic, Boom Racing axles. The BRX 80s were not available when I ordered these. So you had the BRX 70s and the BRX 90s. The 70s are narrower than this, but I think they're too narrow even for that. And you're trying to get as wide as possible without fouling the arches, because this is going to be very top heavy. So what I've done now is I've ordered the conversion kit. So it's kind of cost me a lot of money because these are not cheap, and then the conversion kit on top of that isn't cheap. But the conversion kit allows you to convert the BRX 90s into BRX 80s. So they will be 7mm narrower each side. Plus I'll have narrower tires on this, and hopefully it'll bring it in line with that. We'll see. It'll be closer anyway. I've also lengthened this wheelbase. Need approximately 330mm wheelbase. Previously this was 313, so you needed 17 more. I've made my own links using M3 threaded rod with aluminium tubing, with the 3mm internal diameter, so that's perfect for the M3 threaded rod. And it's actually a lot stronger than I thought. I thought they would be kind of flimsy, but they're not. They're plenty strong, so that's good. It actually sits perfectly. I'm really happy with the way that axle's sitting. articulates nicely. There's no weight on it at the moment, so it's kind of difficult to make it articulate, but you know, articulates nicely. There's no binding, the shocks are in a perfect position. I had to move the shock hoops back 2 holes. So 1, 2, they were there, now they're here. Length of the wheelbase, it's all perfect. Happy with that. I also found, to my surprise, I had stainless steel drive shafts in stock. I've only got the front one on, sorry, the back one on. I've only got the back one on. The reason for that is, annoyingly, the front ones were also the perfect length. The back one's the perfect length. The front one was also the perfect length, but the little pin that goes through here, see a little pin? Through here into the universal joint, so I can attach the universal joint. A little pin with a tiny little E-clip on it. The front one was missing. I've hunted everywhere. I don't have it. I don't know where it is. I don't know why I don't have it, but I don't have it. Maybe it was on my old crawler that I gave away years ago. I don't know. But the point is, as close as I was to having a full drivetrain, a rolling chassis, I don't have it. And I tried to look online. Measured the pin on this side. You can't really get them separately. These are sort of generic Chinesium drive shafts that you can get everywhere. Usually you have to wait several weeks for them to come from China or whatever. And they're kind of generic. They're not great, but they would have fit. And you can get them online, but frankly, I mean, look at the amount of movement and wobble in that. They're not brilliant. They're very rattly, they're very loose. And they're the sort of things that eventually spit out pins, or they, even with thread lock, they fall to bits and stuff. It's a bit like the metal one on the FTX Outlaw, the metal upgrade, but not quite as good as that even, and that tends to fall to bits. So yeah, it's not brilliant. It's going to be rattling horrible. I decided to get some proper ones. So some proper drive shafts on the way that will fit. That'll sort that issue. The track width will hopefully be sorted with the BRX 80 axles and the smaller tyres. Speaking of the smaller tyres, here's the Venture. Look. Like I said, MT 1901s, they're smaller than those. But even still, they look great, actually. They look really good, but, yeah, they will catch in trouble. Slightly smaller than those. So there are things on the way to sort out all these little issues. I had to fiddle around with the front setup, with the Panhard bar and the steering links and all the rest of it to try and make it work. It's sitting pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. These Boom Racing wheels, by the way, they're gorgeous. Boom Racing wheels, got them the same time as the Boom Racing axles. Can't speak highly enough of these. Beautiful wheels, really, really well machined. And I like the cover, it's great. Just take that off. Because you can get the sort of realistic hubs with the bolts are hidden, just like this. My Gmade Komodo GS02F has them, but they're Gmade own ones and they're not as good as these. So this is threaded on the outside of this little cover, this little nut cover, I guess. So it means that the inside of that hub is threaded around the nut. So they just thread in. Beautiful. And I've got this thing, because you can't get your wheel nut wrench in there. It's too deep. So you use this. This is metal. This comes with it. Comes with the wheels. That goes in there. Little adapter. Beautiful. The reason I'm taking this off is, you'll see, there we are, knuckle weights. Just like on my other Komodo, my GS02F. Although unlike that, those are SSD parts designed for the SCX10. These are, well, the SCX10 too. These are Boom Racing ones designed specifically for the Boom Racing axles. These are actually knuckle weights with extra weights bolted on. So I've bolted on the knuckle weights and I've bolted on 2 extra weights on the knuckle weight. And let me tell you, right there is no clearance at all on the inside. That is just about touching and no more. There's like 1.5 mil around the outside of that to the inside of the wheel. There's nothing in there, but it doesn't rub, so it's perfect. And there's the pin gone flying, or the hex gone flying. Get back in there. What's good about these as well, just tighten this up here. That can only get as tight as the leverage that this has will allow. So you can over tighten them, but you've got to really give it some yeehaw to over tighten, because there's not a huge amount of leverage on these. That's perfect. The Gmade ones, which has the same sort of cover, the cover has the wheel nut inbuilt, and you use a big hefty Allen key, and I'm constantly snapping pins because I tighten up and I think that's enough. It's actually way too much because I've got so much leverage I'm snapping pins. But I really like this design, it's very good. Better than the Gmade design, I've got to say. Anyway, but it's not all good news in the world of boom racing. If I take the back ones off, bear with me. Here we are, there's the rear BRX90 boom racing fat axle. Obviously got the BRX80 conversion on the way. These are the rear knuckle weights. I ordered front and rear. Now obviously you want front bias for the trail truck. However, I've got the extra weights mounted to the front weights. So there's 2 extra weights per side. So yeah, this won't be as heavy as the front, but I wanted more weight all over because this is the heavy shell or unit item thing. You have these little locker rings in the middle, and you use 4 grub screws, tighten them up, and they squeeze the locker ring, and that's supposed to squeeze it onto the axle. You slide that on, squeeze them. Now this is as tight as it will go. It will not go any tighter. The grubs are already threatening to strip. And look, yeah, that doesn't work. That's useless. That is rubbish. I've emailed Boom Racing, sent them a video and photographs. They've asked for all that sort of stuff. They said they'll get back to me, so we'll see what happens there. Anyway, the truck is making progress, that's the point. But before I move on from the truck itself, I will say that this is a torque twist reduction gearbox so that the prop shafts spin counter to each other to try and reduce torque twist. Now, the problem with that is it makes the Boom Racing front axle spin the wrong way. Luckily, Boom Racing had already thought of this and offer bevel gears with the opposite rotation, so that's fine. I've got that. These rotate properly. The truck will go forward and not have both axles fighting against each other. Perfect. Now, moving on from the truck for a moment, we have the Winnebago. Obviously, there's no more axles, no more wheels on it. You just have to drill out the 6, actually it's 12, 6-pair axle, spot welds, and then the whole thing drops out. Now, it's actually relatively simple to try and get this to mount up to a truck. There are many ways to do it. The problem is the height. Now it sits on the shock hoops. FYI, I was very impressed as to how well the standard springs and shocks on this Komodo handles the weight of this thing. Even if I throw the roof and everything into it, the interior and everything into it, it floats pretty well. It's too high though. You can see there's a gap to the side, sort of skid plates there. There's a gap. I need it a little bit lower. A little bit lower. A couple of problems to that. Where do you put the shock hoops? You cut holes in the floor. You can cut holes in the floor, whatever, but I want to keep the interior intact. In fact, I'm going to go absolutely ham with this interior and have carpets and have everything painted up and everything looking good or terrible, because it's 70s, so looking terrible. Yes, I want the interior. The interior is part of it. It's got to be a decent interior. Luckily, I've thought of what to do with the rear shock hoops. I know what I'm going to do with that. That's not a concern anymore. The rear will be sorted. The front is more of a concern. However, I might be able to do okay. First things first is the motor. The motor sticks out to about there. I'm going to put a 550 can in this, same as my other trail trucks. Comes out to about there. Now, that will be sticking above where the floor is. However, it's right under this table. Right under this table. So the motor, at the very least, just could be heading onto the table. Now, if that's not good enough, you see the table there. If that's not good enough, I will simply cut all that out and have some sort of, maybe a massive beer fridge or something hiding the motor within it. But the table's quite big, and the chairs are quite big. It might be okay with just the table and chairs. We'll see. We'll see. That isn't a concern. What's more of a concern is that here's the shock hoops here. Now, if I measure it up right, they'll be about there-ish. Which is not ideal, because they'll be poking through the floor. Not just the floor of this, but the floor. It doesn't matter so much if something pokes through the floor of this, as long as it's still structurally sound. They don't cut too many holes. It's more of a concern when it starts to poke through the interior floor. Luckily, the interior floor, you see that there? Is raised here at the front where the driver's seat and passenger seat are. I don't know if you can see that right, but it raises here. Where is it? There. It raises. Now I think that's just too far forward to help with these. I think the floor is about there, not there. It's maybe a centimetre at the most too far forward. But if you think about it, I'm going to have a carpet. It's going to go up that, and it's going to go up over that lip where the driver's seat is. What does it matter if the carpet goes a centimetre further back before going down? I don't think that's going to be a concern. I think that'll hide these pretty well, but I'm guessing. I haven't measured anything yet. I've been concentrating on trying to get the truck finished and functioning with its longer wheelbase first and its alternative axles and everything first before tackling the mounting and all the rest of it. But that is the next thing that's a concern for me. I think it will be doable. The next concern is where to put the battery. 3S LiPo, and this has to sit up on its side. It's quite tall, not quite as tall as the shock hoops, but quite tall. Tall enough that, see this bracing I did here? I used a threaded rod to brace these because these were flexible, these shock hoops. Couldn't do it with the top ones because the battery was in the way. As in, not directly in the way, but you couldn't get the battery in or out if you had this metal bar across. But you see how flexible they are. The solution, depends on where the battery's going. I don't know where the battery's going to go yet. There is space under there, quite easily for a 3-cell battery, but that would be to one side. And it's quite a hefty battery. I'd rather it was central. So we'll work something out there. I'm not going to lose too much sleep over the battery location. I will figure something out. Even if it's got to be, across the centre here or something, just something. My idea is going to ditch the rear shock hoops, as in it's not going to be a problem anymore, and we'll be getting there. So the next big update you'll see will be hopefully the chassis as a rolling chassis, at least maybe even functional with electronics. But this needs to be a fully functioning trail truck first before I even try and make it mount to this. I would love to, I need to rattle my brain a bit, but I would love to have a situation where this could be detached from this pretty easily. Some sort of mounting mechanism with body clips or something, rather than having to unbolt it and rebolt it. It might not be possible, but I want this to be not just, it's obviously going to be a novelty, of course it is, but I want it to be an actually genuine functioning RC truck, which can be swapped out, changed, charged battery, all the rest of it. It's no good if you have to take the whole thing apart and unbolt it all, everything but change a battery or something. So stuff to work out. But I think it's off to a really good start there. I love the way this is sitting at the back. It's absolutely spot on. I'm really pleased with it. The wheelbase is actually, now that I've lengthened it, is maybe, if anything, a couple of mil too long, because it sits perfect until you put a little bit of weight on it, and then the wheelbase spreads out ever so slightly. So because of the weight of that, this is never going to be sitting like this. It's going to be sitting like this slightly. So I might need to just, when we're at the end of the build and it all needs to be tweaked, I might need to shorten these a slight part, but that's not a concern right now. Yes. Getting there. Slow progress, but progress. Hefty girl. It's a hefty girl. See the weight of it, even with the roof area missing, you hear it. Oh. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the update. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you're interested in the build. I'm certainly enjoying it. I think it's quite good fun to try and work out these issues and these problems and these puzzles on the way. I like it. It's good. And hope you drop in to keep tabs on it. Thank you for watching. Take care. I'll see you later. Bye bye.